Hi, I'm Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the Senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville. Welcome to my latest edition of Kibbitzing with Kagan, when I have informal chats with people that I find fascinating. Today's guest is Senator Mary Washington from District 43, Baltimore City. Mary, thank you so much for taking time today to chat.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and my good friend, the Senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville. I love it.
Thank you. So I have so many things to talk to you about. So we are taping this the day, yes. We are taping this the day after adjournment. And last night at midnight was sine die, when there are no more days left from our 90-day session. And then you and I were both up way too late, debriefing and hanging out with colleagues and staff and friends. And so that was fun. Tell me first what you thought of this session. How'd you make it through?
Wow. You know, the saying about one day at a time, absolutely, it really was one day at a time. But I think for us, it was 1 week at a time, right? And we got tested on Tuesdays and Fridays, and that really dictated the early days of whether or not we were going to complete. So I think it was, you know, I think at some point, maybe in February, it felt like, wow, I think we're going to be able to do this. And then when the restrictions opened up after we were able to stay in the chamber longer. And so for me, it's spending the time doing the work and feeling like I didn't know how many days I was going to have. So I think that made every single session so much more intense and more important. So that's how I managed it. Yeah.
Tell me the bill that you are proudest of that passed.
Yes. So that would be the third-party energy suppliers. So it is a piece of legislation that is ensuring that anybody who is on the Home Energy Assistance Program, so that's our program, our state program, where we support and help pay for the energy bills for low-income individuals and seniors, and making sure that the rates that they get are as low as possible. So, you know, for those 30,000 families or more, it's probably increasing because of COVID. They're not going to be subject to the type of predatory pricing that we saw in Texas, right, a couple of months ago.
That was crazy. Yeah.
So I'm most proud of that. And then also the veto, if I could squeeze in another one, is the veto override of the women's pre-release. So that happened early on. So that was a bill we passed last year that we override the governor's veto. But both were about immediately improving the lives of people in our state. And that was really good. It felt good.
Fantastic. That's great. Congratulations. Was there a bill that didn't make it all the way through that kind of broke your heart a little bit?
Well, it's interesting because now I'm in my 12th year and it doesn't break my heart as much as it used to.
I get that, actually. Yeah.
But I think I was hoping, you know, frankly, we had two bills around LGBTQ discrimination and creating a certification pathway, or sort of an MBE certification pathway for LGBT.
Minority Business Enterprise.
Yeah, thank you. We didn't move anything on that. We had a bill. I think we just had a lot we were doing, but I'm looking forward to moving that. But a lot of the sort of, this is going to make an impact on somebody's life today. You know, whether it's the Alzheimer's, whether it's the bill on pregnant and parenting students, the bill to extend pregnancy coverage, insurance coverage for pregnant women postpartum for up for a year. I mean, you know, and then even the employee assistance program for police officers for the state of Maryland, like those all three passed in some way or form, and that it felt good. It was a good session.
Fabulous. Congrats. You were new to our committee, Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs, a lot different than being on judicial proceedings. Tell me what was most fun or most challenging about being on a different committee.
Well, most challenging, I'll start, is that we have, I think it's close to 100 more bills than any other committee. So the sheer volume of bills related to education, health and the environment, procurement, professional certification, just all that.
Elections, alcohol. Yeah.
Alcohol. And so we have so much.
Yeah.
So it's also very difficult and challenging. And at the same time, it's what's also most exciting. So it's both hard. So I think the difference between my first year in the committee, which was last year,
Yep.
and this year, is that I had a better plan. I knew what to expect. So I was able, and I also had a sense of what were some of the debates that you've had for multiple years. And so I could kind of pick up on that. So, but frankly, the mix of students, and I'm not just saying this because it's your show and I'm Kibbitzing with Kagan, but I genuinely, Senator Pinsky and your leadership and your openness and willingness to talk things out, and our committee members, everybody, whether we agree on policy or not, are all intelligent people who bring a perspective, and that just makes it fun. That's what it's supposed to be. It's also what's frustrating at times because you're like, can't we all agree? But no, we can't. It's not the world. So, and that's not Maryland. So that works out.
That's
all right.
One of your bills that passed was Senate Bill 596. And obviously, as you referenced, election reform and voting is a big part of our committee's jurisdiction. Talk for a moment about, excuse me, voter access, voter reform, election reform. Your thoughts on that?
So if you won't mind, I would add to my disappointments 2 bills. And then one of them is absolutely the election reform bill that you sponsor, you the primary sponsor, and worked on. And you called it the kitchen sink, but it was just a comprehensive approach, soup to nuts, to everything that we've learned from the 2016 election, from the 2020 election, from 2008, everything we've learned. And certainly during COVID, like how to mix mail, and what were some of the challenges around ballot access, having guardrails, but also not eliminating access to the franchise. And I felt like it had a great balance to that. So yes, election reform is important, access to the ballot, but we did not pass the level of reform that we need. And hopefully we get a second shot at the apple on that. And then the Climate Solutions Act.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing that the House was not able to see our way to have a comprehensive approach. And in both of those cases, there was unfortunately sort of, I think, a very narrow vision about how to achieve something. And hopefully we can do better next year.
So I think a lot of people watching, or people who just remember, civics from maybe middle school or something, might not remember that there are 2 bodies and that both are powerful. And even if you get a bill passed in the Senate, that doesn't mean it's going to pass out of the House. And if it does, it might look really different and have amendments that, either aren't acceptable to you, or you have to conference, or you have to, compromise in some way, or you run out of time. It's just a little bit maddening.
All of the above.
All the above, exactly. So a lot of good bills died last night at midnight. But as you said, we live to fight another day.
Yeah.
Senator Washington, you referenced LGBTQ issues, and you are the only openly gay senator in the state. And I wonder if you can share kind of what's that like, and how do you wear that from either a personal, political, or policy perspective?
Well, for me, I wear it, all of the identities that I have as a woman, as an African-American, as a member of the LGBTQ community, I wear all of them, and sort of at the same time. And then there are different moments, when it comes to light. I think when I was in the House and we were focused on marriage equality and expanding rights to our transgender brothers and sisters, it was more prominent. I felt it more on a day-to-day basis. It was the topic of conversation. And so now when but when I was in the House, I was one of, I think at the time there were 8 of us. And now it's me. So I'm fortunate. I rely on allies. I don't always have to be the one to step up and say something. I mean, you certainly are someone who always is willing to call it out. So, but it's my responsibility that I'm one of the 47 people who has the lived experience, or is willing to share their lived experience, and in an open way to both humanize the issues that we face, but also because I think I work on a range of issues, I'm not ghettoized in the ways that I think that we were in the early days when we didn't have basic rights. So we really had to keep it in the forefront. So the issue for our transgender brothers and sisters, and those who don't identify as in the binary, we need to be more open, and I look forward to doing a better job of speaking out and being an ally for that community.
So speaking of communities, following the murders of Freddie Gray and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and too many others, there was a real theme this session about not just COVID and the urgency around those issues, but obviously about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I just wonder how you think we did. How did the General Assembly do in passing thoughtful legislation to address some of the inequities?
I think there was a recognition of speaking about it in the first, it wasn't, typically these issues are relegated to the Black Caucus. Like it's on the Black Caucus to have to address race equity, racial disparities in healthcare, racial disparities in access to procurement and business and all that. And this year it was more people were carrying the bills because the Senate president had stood up that equity task force, which was run by our colleague Melanie Griffith from Prince George's County. And so she carried bills, but also so did Chris West, and so did Eddie Eckert. And
Chris West is a Republican senator from Baltimore County. Eddie Eckert, who's a white woman senator from the Eastern Shore.
So in addition to the Black members, the senators, Arthur Ellis and Senator
County.
Yeah, and so that was refreshing because that had not been in the 12 years of my experience, that there would be maybe one bill that we're doing this one bill, then that's going to address race, maybe. Right. And then it's certainly the HBCU funding, and had nearly more than $500 million over 10 years for reparations, essentially, for the defunding and the harm caused to the segregated system of higher education that Maryland had for so many decades. And so
again, just to translate, in case HBCU is the historically Black colleges and universities.
Yep.
So you were going to say historically?
Oh, it was the historic underfunding of these institutions. And so we took a stand on that, and that's this legislation, and that was law. And now the state, because the lawsuit has been going on for 12 years at least. I mean, the issue has been going on for much longer, but the lawsuit has just been out there. And other states, Mississippi, Alabama, 10 years ago, they resolved, they settled and say, yeah, we do owe you $400 million. We are not going to have duplication of programs. We're going to do all these things. And Maryland just kept fighting under Democrat and Republican administrations. And so it's good that we were able to get this done.
And to be clear, Republican Governor Larry Hogan vetoed last year's legislation. So we had to come back again and do it again. And then he showed up for a bill signing.
He's good at that.
He is good at that. Let's move on. You ran for mayor of Baltimore. So why don't you, sorry?
I said, that feels like so long ago, but yes.
It does. It feels like a million years ago, but we have, so you chose not to continue and to stay in the Senate, which selfishly I was very happy about, even though I was supporting your dream if that's what you wanted, but I was very happy to have you stay in the Senate. Talk about your hopes for the city of Baltimore and how you think the new mayor is doing, and just briefly talk about that.
I feel like the mayor Brandon Scott is doing a great job. I'm somebody for transparency and communication, for form and substance. So he does both. So they're both things that are done symbolically, as well as really substantive things. And it looks like good hires. I'm looking forward to being able to go home, because I have not lived in the city full time since he's become mayor. So, because I've been living here in Annapolis, because of COVID and just staying here. And
Right.
so I'm looking forward to being more full-time, in Baltimore, in my home, with my partner and our family. And the one of the biggest things is the trash is getting picked up. The streets are looking a little cleaner,
Right.
but there's a lot we need to do. There's still way too much gun violence. There's way too many murders. There's too many assaults. Too many children are hungry. Too many of our schools still need good heating. And but I'm really, I feel as though he takes that responsibility and is not pointing a finger, and that's a huge step. So we look forward to being good partners with them. And our Senate delegation, I also have to give a shout out to our Baltimore City Senate delegation. We are 6 members, and each one of them is just fantastic, and we work well as a team. We don't always agree. We mostly agree, but we don't always agree on the path, which way we should go. But this session, we were on point every single step of the way. We communicated with each other. Corey McCrae has been our chair of our delegation, and it's just been great. So each one of us, most of us were all delegates together. Yeah. So, yeah. So, Senator Susan,
Yeah.
Baltimore County, Senator Jill Carter, Baltimore City, 41st District, Antonio Hayes, 40th District, Corey McCrae, 45th, and our Senate President, Bill Ferguson, represents the 46th District. We all each have our specialties, and it's working out really well.
It's a powerful group.
I did enjoy seeing the photo of the Montgomery County senators. I mean, you all it sort of looked like an album cover. I mean, it definitely.
So there was debate as to whether to be masked or unmasked, and we did it outside, and they were going to be unmasked because we were distanced. And I was like, let's do it with masks. And no matter what we do, we're going to get criticized, even though we're all double vaxxed plus weeks. We did masks and stayed separate, and still had trolls coming after it, which is fine. Whatever.
But it's still a great photo. I mean, I think it works out really well.
Thanks. So one more thing before we go to the Fast Five. You are a PhD, you are a professor. Talk about how on earth you were able to balance showing up for your students and all that while also being a senator. And how do you do that year round?
We were learning. I mean, with COVID now, our classes be online. That was not the way my classes were designed. So it was a real challenge. So I have classes Monday morning. So that was pretty easy. But my Friday classes had to be asynchronous. And I'm looking forward to this Friday being able to have synchronous class with them again. And I enjoy teaching. It kept me, frankly, you asked earlier how I survived and such the pressures of the session. I think part of that, having the situation where I'm interacting with young people and I'm educating and I'm hearing from them, that helped make what I'm doing, sitting for hours, listening to bills, some passing, some not passing, some trying to make sure that they don't pass. It really gave a relevance to it. It's like, this is why I'm doing it. And so it was a nice connection.
That's great. Well, your students are very lucky to have sorry?
Yeah. Hopefully they learned something, a couple.
I'm sure. Well, from what you've told me about some of the textbooks or the books that you've selected and the themes that you use, they're very lucky to have you. So that's great. So, Senator Mary Washington, your Fast Five. 5 random questions for brief answers. First, what is one word you would use to describe yourself as a senator?
Relentless.
What did you say?
Relentless.
Love that. Okay. Now that we are hopefully on the tail end, hopefully, of the pandemic, and now that we're done with session, what is a hobby you look forward to going back to and either picking up or returning to?
Gardening. I love gardening. I'm right away pulling the weed. There are weeds that have gotten very high. My partner has showed me pictures. I was like, I got to get in there. So yes, I'm looking forward to that. And mine, I'm in a row house. So our backyard, our porches, we can see each other closely, and I'm just looking forward to yelling across the the porch and watching people walking their dogs and things like that. That wasn't a short answer.
No,
Pardon me.
that's all good. That's all good. Question 3, what is your favorite kind of cuisine?
Oh, so Thai just jumped in.
Okay.
I love Thai food.
Okay. When it's safe to do so, what is a place that you look forward to traveling?
Oh, the Caribbean, St. Martin, getting on a catamaran and looking at the blue. Yeah, St. Lucia, someplace like that. Yeah, we haven't traveled in a long time.
Love St. Lucia. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last question, Senator Mary Washington, is the one that I ask everyone.
Okay.
What is your hidden secret superpower? What is something you're really good at that most people can't do?
Listen.
Excellent. I love that. Okay. Well, Mary, I adore you and have the greatest respect for you. And I'm so glad that we're colleagues and friends.
Yes.
And I'm grateful that you were willing to take the time the day after adjournment to have this little kibitz.
Not only for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, stay safe and well, and good luck with moving home. Tell Jody I send a hug, and I look forward to beers in Baltimore or in Rockville or Gaithersburg sometime soon.
Somewhere else. We'll go. Maybe we'll go to Western Maryland and Bug Galleon.
There we go. That'd be fun. Okay. All right. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye.